1, 2, 3.
This July, Laura Flanders and friends in Blueprint, North Carolina brought together many of the organizers and activists featured in our award-winning series, The Roots of the January 6th Insurrection, to hear their stories now, leading up to the 2024 election. While mainstream media have largely ignored the rise of extremism in the state, we've been covering the story since 2021, including the attack on LGBTQ rights and how the community is standing up to hate. On the heels of 2024 Durham Pride, we bring you this roundtable discussion featuring House of Coxx drag artist Naomi Dix is this year's Grand Marshal, and Stormie Daie. Also featured are Southern Pines PFLAG founders Kristen Parker and Erica Street, and Street's daughter, Alex Lafferty, a trans activist, artist, and composer.
Well, welcome everybody. I am in Durham again, Durham, North Carolina, this time at the Convention Center with people that have really become old friends and some new ones as well. As you may have followed, we've produced not one, not two, but 5 episodes looking at the North Carolina roots of the January 6th insurrection. And today I'm catching up on some of the stories that we've covered and finding out from some of the people whom we interviewed as much as a year ago what's happened in the interim and where do things stand today. With me here at the table is Erica Street, Stormie Daie, Alex Lafferty, Naomi Dix, and a new friend, Kristen Parker. Kristen and Erica have been working together in Moore County on a project that we're going to hear more about. But just to recap, when we met all of you, it was just about a year after a blackout had hit your county. And a blackout that didn't just last for one day, but lasted for 5 in many parts. Didn't just affect one area, but as many as 45,000 businesses and homes. And a blackout that coincided precisely with a show that you were headlining at the Sunrise Theater in Sand Hills, and a campaign of hate that had been directed at the LGBTQ community, specifically the drag community. That fall, and that had gone on for months. At the time, I was struck by the bravery of all of you to go through that experience, to talk about it, and to refuse to step down. And by the failure of law enforcement officials at any level to come up with even a suspect, to arrest anyone, and just to confirm no one has been arrested in connection with what was clearly defined by the authorities as a sabotage attack on not one but 2 power stations. So just to start, a lot has happened in this year. So just to clarify, the officials say the government, the sheriff, is it the sheriff? It's the Sheriff's Department and the Department of Defense, right? That was who he said was in charge. So the Sheriff's Department there in Moore County and the Department of Defense have been investigating for nearly 2 years now. Is there a suspect? Has anyone been arrested?
Not one. I was talking to Grace the other night, and they asked if the same thing, and I said, it's almost as if it never happened. You know, everybody has just gone quiet about it, and it's eerily quiet. Because we're all sitting on edge. When is this going to happen again? Have we got food stocked up, you know?
Do you think it could happen again?
As easily as it did last time. I didn't have that fear before, you know? But as Blueprint's research has shown, it's happening in a lot of places.
On the 1-year anniversary after the event, the sheriff and all of the investigating authorities made all of their notes and investigation public. And at that time, we found out that there was a specific vehicle that they had identified as being involved in some way, and they knew
car.
Yes, and they knew who drove it, And they went and talked to this individual several times, but in the notes, there's no record of what actually happened in those conversations or why it didn't pursue any further.
And in our episode, we lift up one person who has been leading the anti-drag campaign, Emily Grace Rainey. How's she doing now? Where is she? What's she up to? And did she have any relationship with this person?
We haven't heard anything from her in quite some time. On her social media, she hasn't made any statements. She hasn't made any comments. No waves have been made from her, so we don't exactly know, which is fine. And we don't know if she has any connection with the person that whose vehicle they were following.
Now, this campaign of hate against this particular drag show followed a summer, this is a year ago, nearly 2 years ago now, that had seen a lot of harassment of pride events and so on. That happened again last summer. But in general, how would you say the climate's been for you and Stormie doing the work that you do out there in the community? Stormie, go.
I mean, Naomi knows that we as drag performers, and I think we as family members who've always been focused on community events, Naomi and I grew up in a space where we often produce shows in places that hadn't had drag before, had not seen drag performers before. So we were used to being Black drag queens in the South, bringing merriment and fun to places that didn't really want any other part of our intersectionality there, let alone the drag. And so we have come from events being canceled, places not wanting us, or we live in the Triangle, and there are places, my voice is vibrating right now, that we literally drive past or drive through, and we haven't had opportunities to perform there because people have commented on social media and threatened either violence or budgets, and they quickly ask us to not come, ask us to put it away, and then no one talks about it. So I want to say since Moore County, I've probably had 5 events canceled, let alone usually these things are always, again, done under the rug. They don't make news, and no one really talks about them unless we talk about them ourselves. And then we feel like we're talking about them so much, we're like making it bigger than what it is, but then the next event gets canceled or someone else puts out a bomb threat.
And who wants to be the person saying, I was canceled?
Right.
A lot of people don't. But it's not, we're the ones getting canceled. If you really talk, we're the ones being shut down, shut out, and not allowed to gather and create space for people who need that space.
You're saying there's a race piece to that specifically?
I'm a Black drag queen from the South. I'm a Black person. Nothing I do goes without race. Nothing that I do goes without me being Black. I am Black on a flyer. I'm Black when people meet me in person. Sometimes I'm one dot in the big old Pride parade. But a lot of the people that I work with hire me or hire Naomi because they know they're welcoming that in. They know that visibility and that representation is needed. And also, again, this is the South. We have a history of policing small communities and making small communities feel scared, and thus breaking up those communities and putting up new wallpaper, putting on a little gray spackle and saying nothing never happened here. And we move on.
What would you add to that picture, Naomi? Because what you're saying, Stormie, is so true. And it's part of what we've reported on time and time again, that it is not just the current fight, but the fight that was made invisible, that preceded, the history that now many people in this country would prefer we don't even teach. But you're out there, you're doing that work.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, this is why I wanted Stormie to start, because Stormie has been continuously, even through the heat of the Moore County situation, been doing shows and has, as she said, had shows and events canceled and threats against her through social media and through other outlets. And even though the threats may not be as constant as maybe they were maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. It still exists. And I think it's kind of like a tale as old as time when it comes to people of color, and when it comes to people of color that have a voice, and people of color that society thinks is not staying in our place. And our place to them is to shut up and perform, or shut up and do our job. And we are doing our job, but a part of doing our job is also having a platform. And a part of that platform is speaking out. Unfortunately, I don't think that there are enough people within the drag community that do speak out. But that doesn't have anything to do necessarily with them not wanting to or not being advocates. It's just through previous, trauma and events where, again, we are told to stay in our place. And so they feel as though, why get involved? Why say anything? Because they're scared of not getting a booking, or they're scared of, not being able to make money. We have to also realize that because drag is art, this is some people's jobs. This is the only job that they have. This is their only means to put food on the table and to pay bills. And so I understand why it might be scary for some people within the drag community to want to speak out, in fear that they might lose their position or might lose a gig or money, because again, essentially that's food being put into their mouths. And so I think that both Stormie and I come from and I hate to use this, but like a privileged place, but a privileged place not in the sense of white privilege, but a privileged place in where we are surrounded by people in Durham, North Carolina that want to be educated and want to educate each other and want to educate us. And me and my sister want to educate one another. And our drag mother was a huge educator when it came to how we looked at the art of drag and how we proceeded in our own ventures separately from the House of Coxx. And so we are in this space of privilege of having the platform that we have as drag artists to be able to speak out and be able to give other people voices, but in a way that actually creates change. Not just speaking out because we can or we're doing it on social media, but when we do speak out, we have a vision, we have a focus, and that focus is, again, making sure that people know and hear and see us and see the people around us.
Now, as you just said, the two of you are based in the Triangle area, Durham, Raleigh. Coming to you, Alex Lafferty, you appear in our episode as the young trans girl who is not able to attend the show because of the protests that put an age limit on what was supposed to be a family event, meaning the show that Naomi was headlining there at Sandhills. How's your life been since? And as you're sitting here listening, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking, firstly, that everything that these two are saying is very true. And I think it's important to recognize that as a white queer person, I have, especially a white queer person from a very supportive household, thanks. I have such a place of privilege because I'm palatable. I'm also at a place in my transition where I pass very well to a lot of people, and that makes me a little bit not in a necessarily bad or good way, excluded from a sense of activism, sort of a separation from my own community, which is great. That's it's great, but it's also, it leaves a lot of my friends behind, But I think that that's also the beauty of my position, is that I have the ability to speak for a lot of the people who can't, Since our episode, my life has been going very well, which is great because that means that the fascists are not winning, My life has been going very well. The estrogen is flowing. You know what I mean? That has not stopped. The supply has not stopped.
I mean, we're laughing, but there are legislators in this country right now who want to deny you access to that medical care.
Medically, I have my rights,
We made it just in time.
In this state, minors cannot take gender affirming care. I was grandfathered in because I already had my full plan, which is great and fantastic. But there's a lot of people I know, a lot of trans people who want to go on hormones who don't have the ability to. And there are things coming up where they want to ban gender affirming care for not just minors, but of any age, which is genocide.
Come on.
Which is genocide. Like, you can't destroy an entire community and see that as legal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to let that sit for a second, because we are talking life and death when we're talking denying care, health care to trans kids and adults. And that is where this crazy front line has been drawn. Not as if it's a unique situation to North Carolina, but North Carolina has been the point of a spear on much of this mobilizing, weaponizing anti-queer and anti-drag hate for, I would say, the purpose of shoring up separation, segregation, white supremacy, power. You two, Kristen and Erica, have been using the tools of solidarity. You created a PFLAG chapter, Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, which encompasses everybody at this point. How is that going? And what have you been doing since? And up against these bills, what are you doing?
Well, we're celebrating our first birthday in a couple of weeks. And I look back on the last year, and it's just been a whirlwind. I mean, we hit the ground running because we knew what our goal was, and that was to protect children, protect our loved ones in the LGBTQ community, protect ourselves. And PFLAG provides that umbrella that we can do that under. Speaking of platforms, you can do that with PFLAG. They're a national organization. And so we're just one of 400 chapters or more across the nation. And so there for a while, it's like you just start doing things and getting your name out there, and then people start coming to you. And that's what happened. After our episode, our last episode, when was that? About 6 months ago?
It aired on just about the anniversary of the blackout, so it would have been December of 2023.
So in March, we were approached by an educator who remains anonymous, and they provided us some materials that were blatantly discriminatory for our students and for the staff of our county schools. And we were appalled at the verbiage. I mean, to say that the board was causing the staff of these schools, all of the schools in our county, to enforce these rules was just cowardly. They made these rules specifically saying that any books within these schools, ages K through 4, that depicted homosexual parents needed to be removed.
And doesn't it say that in the legislature? It is not even suggested. It says.
So a lot of people are familiar with the North Carolina Parents' Bill of Rights, and a lot of states are passing them in general, and they're controversial. But so far, they're kind of towing the line of what states can say legally. Well, in Moore County specifically, our own Board of Education had passed a Bill of Rights about 3 or 4 months prior to the North Carolina one passing, and it was pretty much the same verbiage. But after the county level Bill of Rights was passed, there was a principal's guide to implementation that was sent out from central office to the principals of all of the schools. And that's where the wording specifically changed from towing that line to blatantly crossing it. It didn't just say that books regarding homosexual parents should be removed. It said books that discuss gender identity or gender preference of any kind should be removed. And that's just ludicrous, because if you have a book that literally uses he, him pronouns, even for a cis-het boy, that's discussing gender identity.
I can see a lot of romance novels being whipped out of those school libraries.
And so by the very definition, they would have had to clear all of the books from all of the libraries that mention pronouns at all. It is. It's a, yeah. And so that's where, but then it did also specifically say books with homosexual parents. And those are the ones, and so we have had parents in the schools reaching out to their principals asking for lists of books that were removed, and we've cataloged those. And in our Sand Hills Pride event that we had earlier in June, we had a little banned book reading nook where we had copies of all of the books available, and we had little reading stations, little bean bags, and kids were in reading the books, and that was really well received. And it was really eye-opening for a lot of the people who came to the Pride event at how many of the books had been removed, and most of them had no idea. And that was the other thing, is that our county already has a policy that if you have an objection to a book for any reason, you go through this process through the Board of Education. And this parental guide of implementation completely subverted that. And one of the books that was removed was a book that had been challenged, and the entire board found that it was appropriate and that it should stay, yet it was removed through this back channel process. So that's where a lot of kind of the background of the most recent thing that we've been working on, which is the civil rights complaint against our Board of Education.
And where does that stand right now?
We're waiting. It can take 6 months from what we understand. However, I will say that once we submitted it, and it was a very lengthy document, 117 pages, I think, and because we had a lot of evidence to present against how things were handled. You know, they didn't follow protocol. They didn't do what they said that they would do. The day following our submission to the Civil Rights Office, they replied and said, "Thank you. No deficiencies," and our friends at Campaign for Southern Equality were shocked that they didn't come back and say, "Oh, we need this, this, and this too."
Laura Flanders and Friends asks the questions we need to be asking to move forward. While the commercial media is centered on what sells advertising, which is too often fear, we're centered on change makers, imagining a better world and creating the solutions to get us there. That's thanks to the generous support of viewers and listeners like you. While we are independent media, we do depend on you. Please contribute by making a one-time donation or make it monthly. Go to lauraflanders.org/donate. As Angela Davis says, when vast numbers of people come together, this is how change happens. Please come together with us now. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your continued support. Now back to our conversation.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there a guy on the school board there in Moore County, David Hensley, who has a connection to January 6th? Isn't he the guy that said he couldn't go to Washington but bring back severed ears? And he sits on your Board of Ed?
Yes, that's him. He's leading our schools.
The chairman of the Board of Education is Jewish, and David Hensley called him a Nazi.
We're very hopeful that this next election will bring forth more goodness in our county and get rid of the old.
We have 3 very strong candidates. We're pretty optimistic.
Neither one of you is running, not yet.
I'm not an educator. I'm just a parent. I think that the candidates that are running have a much stronger background in actually being in the schools in official capacities. They know how the schools work. They know they are pro-education, which is something that you should be if you're on a Board of Education, and not all of our commissioners currently are.
Pro-severed ears.
When there was an election for the current Board of Education, I'm not sure if this is true. I'm sure you would know, though. I heard that one of them hadn't even served in public schools.
Well, that's... again, David Hensley makes statements that he has been an educator, but there's no record of it. And whenever he's asked for proof, I'm not saying that he hasn't, but we can't find a record of where he has been.
So how do we bring these stories together? I mean, what happened in Moore County brought several things together. It brought together people who had been actively involved in attending the Capitol insurrection. Emily Grace Rainey took busloads from your county there. It brought together people who are part of what's in many cases called an accelerationist network, who were publicizing on the internet how to sabotage power stations. That was going on. It brought together the anti-hate campaign against the drag event, and it brings together the struggle around the schools. But I will say that in a lot of our media, you have the kind of anti-queer stuff over here, school stuff over here, January 6th Trumpian kind of stuff over here. It's rare that we bring these stories together and see how one set of fears or anxieties or paranoias are being weaponized to sort of help another cause. And I'm sort of doing the work here, but I would love to hear from you how you piece this together. Because I'm sure, Stormie, you're often asked just about drag or just about pride, but you live here, and as you've said, you are a Black woman performer, artist. Talk a bit about how you see these connections.
I mean, intersectionality is something we talk about because there's people like myself who are Black and queer and non-binary and a drag queen, but also an educator. Like, I promote science, and I can't even go to teach in schools unless the schools are affirming, because I might teach them about who I am. And then that's the problem. You don't want people to see me, to know that I exist, to know that my life is real, a possibility, because you have labeled me as a corrupting force. You have made me negative. And that is one of the work as drag queens, is that we're on the precipice showing people who we are, because it's safe, usually safe for us to show people who we are, because we know it is not always safe for our communities. And again, America has the tradition of using a community to scapegoat them, to make other people feel less afraid, to make people feel proud. And they're not. They're just putting out hate, and they're also using our lives to prove their falsehoods, their lies. And so when we talk about all of these things are together, is because we're all complicated, complex people. We are mothers, we are teachers, we're students, we are trans, we are actively needing school systems and healthcare, and we should be allowed to play sports, and we should be allowed to use bathroom in public spaces. These issues aren't separate because they're about people's lives, and people's lives aren't separate. They're not compartmentalized.
Forgive me, we're artists also.
We're artists also, excuse me. I forgot about the artists, y'all. I'm here fully beaded like I didn't paint my face this morning.
Anything you want to add, Alex, Naomi?
I think we can talk about being an artist now. I think that that's something super important. You're an artist. You're an artist. I think that something about drag is that a lot of people forget it is an art. And you should probably speak on this more than I, because I don't do drag, but I am a composer. This is great. Okay. I participate in art that is dominated by a lot of white supremacy. Classical music has been a place to breed pretentiousness, white supremacy, and a posh attitude, and a way to look down on others. A lot of people say that classical music is the supreme form of music, and as a fan of classical music, I listen to it in my free time. It just comes across as racist when you say that this form of art that was started in Europe is supreme. Yeah, it's a little iffy, and a lot of people in my community of playing classical music sound like that, and they come across as that, and they're better than everyone else. Their art form is better. Composing is hard. Composing is extremely difficult, but it's easy because I don't have anyone saying I can't do it.
Well, to speak to that and how it connects to the schools, like you are bringing work to the world thanks to teachers and parents and others who made that possible for you, your talent to emerge.
In my art form.
Was there a moment where it might not have?
No. And that's something that is so fantastic about what I do and what I am good at, is that no one's telling me I can't. For them, so many people in this country who are leading the country, people who aren't leading the country, people who don't do anything interesting, people who are artists are telling them that they can't do their art. And that is what is so scary, is that my art's okay, but theirs isn't.
And the younger people that are coming after you.
Yeah.
Might not have that support. Okay, Naomi, coming to you, you opened a club. And you're getting a lot of positive response. We're now shifting to the positive things that have happened part of the conversation. It's exciting. They didn't discourage you. You didn't get discouraged. Well, you came out of this year with a new project.
Yeah. I don't know why it's always so emotional when I talk to both of you. Like, I just like, yeah, I mean, they did discourage me. I'm going to be completely honest. They did discourage me. You know, as a parent, and I think I've said this before, you always want your children to have a better life than you, and you always want a different generation to have a better life than you. And so to think that in 2022, you know, this could happen to a generation where my whole being and my whole self as an artist, as a drag artist, is to make the world a better place and make those who come to my shows feel like they're being seen and feel like they're being represented. And so to know that there are still people in the world that feel the need to take that away from someone. Yeah, I mean, me opening up this club was 3 years in the making, but I knew that after Moore County, when I have the time to breathe and the time to look at myself and look at those around me, I want to create my own space. I create spaces all the time. I facilitate spaces all the time. But I want to open up my own space where when you walk through those doors, anything and everything that is happening through social media, the news, the next generation has that space to be able to create their own journeys and to feel as though they are being seen and that someone loves them. And I don't even have to know you to love you, but like just coming into the space that I created, with my community, is such an educational piece to another generation to see that they can make these beautiful memories in club era and remember those beautiful memories years from now and say, I remember the first time I went to a gay club. Or I remember the first time that I went to club era. And I remember the first time that I realized that I was not just gay, but that I was queer, or that I identify as non-binary, or, you know, I identify as trans because I saw that representation in club era. And so now I can feel safe, feel heard, and feel seen to be able to be my true self.
In places like that, we also feel we're not alone, right? In organizations, in action, in performance. What happens in the performance is the audience are brought together in a live moment and go through an experience together, right? You bring us joy. Right? In the video that we made, we see you in action. And we see the joy on the faces of those kids at your shows.
Well, I think it's like I even said last night, is like, we save lives, we don't take lives away. And that's not what we do.
Right.
We've never done that.
And what if we could build communities that felt like that for everybody? I mean, isn't that the goal?
But that's why
I feel like
Club Era has started, because I want to
people get
be
that.
It. And I want people to see that they can create their own community, or we can create a community where 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, we're not having to sit down and have this conversation, hopefully.
Well, what is so scary about it? I mean, as we're talking now, we're in the run-up to the 2024 election. It's a big one in this state. It's a big one, huge one in this country. We're not alone in the world. There are countries struggling with a revival of fascism, authoritarianism. And the psychologists tell me that authoritarianism emerges from a desire for someone to look after you and to leave choice-making to somebody else, to be protected, to have strength in the hands of someone else. I don't know if that's true. It might just be you want to hold on to your stuff and not have to share with anybody. But there is something going on about the sort of soul of the country right now that is playing out right here in this state and in this county that we're talking about, Moore County. As you enter, the two of you, anybody else wants to weigh in into this election where you are? You've talked about wanting to change the school board. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling optimistic. Like I touched on earlier, the candidates that we have for those positions are very strong candidates. All three of them have impeccable resumes. They've done fantastic work, and they're from across the political spectrum themselves. So they're not all progressive. They're not all liberal, but they all value public education. They all value all of the children in the school. They're trying to build the schools up, not tear them down. And you had talked earlier about what are the common threads between all of these different discussions that you're having. And the common thread is that they're all trying to keep people like all of us down. As long as there's a hierarchy, there's someone that wants to be on top, and they use groups to put on the bottom. And so one of the things that I really admired about because I've gotten to know Erica very well over the past, one of the things that I've gotten appreciated about Erica is that she values the intersectionality, and that it's that intersectionality that's going to bring all of these groups that they're trying to split up together. And when we bring all of these groups together, that's how we can not be the minority and have a louder voice and kind of shake up the hierarchy a little bit. And in small communities, it can feel isolating sometimes. It can feel like we're the only voices. So that's one of the things that's so great about events like we had last night and about conversations like you're having, is that it's easier for us to see that there's other people out there doing the same kind of work, the same kind of priorities, and that all really want to make this a better country for everyone, not just those in the top of that hierarchy.
Anybody want to add anything?
As I was listening to everyone, you asked what brings all of this together. And it's as simple as the common denominator. The same people in the center are trying to fight us all. Mm-hmm. It's the slow people doing everything. They have the same opinions about us. And if the
same people as the people anti-reproductive justice,
they're all the same. They're all of the Emily Grace Rainey's of the world. They're all of the Donald Trumps of the world. They're right there. And they're picking on everyone else. And if we, let's go around them, I
believe we call that a vacuole. You got to consume them. Eject them from the body of the cell. That's right. No, what we're talking about is the fact that over the last few years, we as the minority, as the liberal, as the queer, as the POC, we have come together. We've been open. We've been proud. Dare I say we were happy and joyful maybe for a little bit. And the Emily Grace Raineys, the Trumps, they seem that they want to dismantle our communities. They want to dismantle our camaraderie, our joy. And, there's that saying, what y'all are doing by starting PFLAG, by keeping these people accountable, by pointing out people who are trying to spread hate and hurt people and kill people, we're keeping us safe. We keep us safe by making PFLAGs, by making organizations, by creating spaces for each other, by creating whole moments. How many episodes in are we? Come on, we're not gonna let these conversations go. We're going to hold people accountable. We're doing that. That's the work.
And I want to ask you, I called you a woman before because I looked across the table and that was the word that came. But to model, I apologize for that. And I just want to say I'm sorry to pretend that it didn't happen.
No, I confuse people. But that's the drag. That's what I think. So still to this day, the purpose of drag is just to
The beauty of it.
is to set people off kilter. I know you just meant I was beautiful.
But we have to, and we all have to practice
We all.
being off kilter a little bit. I mean, we're all pretty off kilter right now. Speaking for myself, heck, if the next guy if the orange guy gets in, he stops public television. No more funding for these kinds of conversations. And I do believe that it is these kinds of conversations where people talk about what's in their hearts that are going to save us. Yeah, I'm going to start crying. Alex, the next few years for you, what do they hold?
In December, I'll be graduating from high school.
That sounds like an early graduation.
It is
December.
which is actually really easy to do. You just can never fail a class. If you never fail a class, then it is easy. And after that, I'm going to, so through my school, we have this thing where you can go to the community college near us for free for 2 years, which is an associate's degree. So that's a free degree. So I'll be getting my associates in music from there. And then after that, I am going to probably stick around for maybe another year, maybe another semester, and work a little bit, save a little bit more money. Maybe, hopefully, I'll be at the point where I can, do shows more frequently. And I'm performing for people, take commissions, maybe even conducting stuff. I like that. And then I'll be going to Europe because my dream is to. She takes particular umbrage, but it's like, but my dream is to go to the University of Vienna.
Wow. Yeah. Well, truly, you have all brought me to tears. Thank you. I think this is really your fault, Naomi.
Oh, no.
But
I blame her.
I love you all. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this full uncut conversation from our Meet the BIPOC Press monthly series. These audio exclusives are made possible thanks to our member supporters. Please join our members now by making a one-time donation at lauraflanders.org/donate. Or make it monthly. Go to patreon.com/Laura Flanders and Friends. That's also where you'll find more information on this conversation in the episode notes posted. That's patreon.com/Laura Flanders and Friends. And thanks again to all our member supporters.